I'm going to turn this into this in 27 minutes or less. Will I finish in time? Or will I have to hit the turbo button? You can create along with me or just relax and watch. I'm Gina Murrow, the 27-minute artist. I'm from Alaska, and the northern lights often light up the sky during our long, cold winter nights. We're going to capture this wintry scene, and you won't even need to put on a coat. Here are the supplies you'll need. You can find the supply list in the show notes below, or you can go to my website, 27minuteartist.com, and order the supply list directly from there. Now come on, let's go light up the studio. I'm going to mark off the horizon line with a permanent marker, just using an old Sharpie. And we're going to give ourselves a rough idea of where the horizon line is. And I'm just using the reference picture as inspiration, not copying it exactly. We're going to put in an evergreen tree, and the easiest way to do that is, we're just doing the silhouette, so I'm just going to scribble. Now, generally evergreen trees, spruce trees in Alaska are skinny on top, and then they get wider at the bottom, just like it's a Christmas tree. The ones in Alaska are black spruce, and they're not beautifully shaped. They look more like Dr. Seuss trees. So we're just gonna go a little faster here. I'm not worried about these white spots showing in the middle of the marker. I can go back and either fill those in with marker, or more likely I'll fill them in with watercolor paint. Go right over the top of the snow so I can anchor that tree in the winter. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I want to make sure it's dark down the middle so the trunk looks like a trunk. And let's do another little one down here. I unfortunately made that right underneath the big one. We'll just pretend it's partly covered in snow, and we'll put a third one out here. This is not rocket science. You can add as many or as few as you want, but you'll get tired of doing it, so you probably only add a few. We'll do some berry bushes coming up out of the grass. I mean, out of the snow, some grass coming up out of the snow. Now, put a couple over here so that I push the eye back into the picture. And instead of putting a tree on this side, let's make a silhouette of a caribou looking at our northern lights. Now, you're like, I don't know how to draw a caribou. Very simply. This is just the silhouette. So we're going to make a rectangle. And then this rectangle is going to be a little bit smaller and looking up. And then we're going to connect his body. Okay. Now we're going to start forming the nose, rounding it off, giving him a little bit of a beard, some ears, bumps for ears. See that? Now this one we do want to worry about the white spots, because you're not going to see sky through the skin of a caribou. Or if you do, he's no longer living. Okay. And soften that corner right there. Caribou have kind of rounded bottoms with a flat spot. These are reindeer. Caribou are reindeer. So just imagine Santa's reindeer if you've never seen a caribou. Filling in the white spots, right? Actually, he looks more like a moose with that nose. So we're going to pivot and make him a moose. So we're going to give him horns. I'm going to leave a little bit of white there so you can kind of see the hair on his ear. And then this one's going to go back farther. There we go. Yeah. Looks moosey enough. So you can change it up and make it anything you want. They have a little bit bigger legs. We're going to say his hooves are down in the snow. Again, no seeing through the caribou, I mean the moose. He's supposed to be a little bit bigger. And like a horse, they have elbows in the back. So what I'm doing with this marker is I'm carving out the shape little by little. I didn't get in his leg in the back. Let's move it back a little bit as if he's taking a step, and then make this one a little bit longer. That little smiley face under the leg is where the hole of the snow is. Make that leg come forward. And then the other one can be more like that. Okay. You can also go back and fix the marker after you do the paint. Now we're ready to do some more paint. This is the fun part. So you get this silhouette roughly how you like it. And now we are going to turn to our paints, and we're going to just use some basic colors. I'm going to have a phthalo blue, and if you add a little alizarin crimson to phthalo blue, you get a darker blue. And then I can use turquoise and permanent green to use the greens, and the alizarin crimson to use the colors in the northern lights, or Aurora. So you always want to have two waters in watercolor. You want to have a clean water wash and a dirty water wash, and you want to use them in opposite order that I just told you. Doesn't matter which is which. We'll say this is dirty. So you wet first in the dirty, touch it to that. Now I already have some phthalo blue here. This is my working palette, and it's been rather busy today. So I'm going to take a little bit of that phthalo blue, wipe off my knife. You could use another smaller brush, but this is easier because it wipes clean. And take just a touch of that alizarin crimson. I roughly want 2 parts blue to 1 part pink, but it's not an exact science. Mix it together, wipe it off. Okay, I take my wet brush. I forgot something important. Hold on. This is just a clean brush. We're going to use gravity to help us. We're going to turn it over. Okay? And we're just going to run clear water right along that line and brush it down. Don't worry about the marker, it won't hurt. You notice if you were looking at the palette cam that I dipped that in the clean water. This brush has a tiny bit of blue in it from practice sessions. It doesn't matter because I'm going to be doing a lot of blue. If you were going to be doing a different color, you'd want to make sure this was real clean. And I'm not over wetting this. It is definitely wet, not shiny. It's just wet enough to move the paint around, okay? Now I take my bigger brush with the alizarin and phthalo mixture. Starting on the edges, I brush down. Now one of the tricks to this is you're going to try to put it on there and leave it alone. If you start futzing it, you're going to get what's called blooms. And I'll show you that in a separate video. Okay, let's take a touch of dirty water there. And I make nice long strokes. When it looks fuzzy in the edges like that, broken, it's not real wet there. Now I don't want to make this solid because I want to leave room for adding the green and the pink, but I want all this area that is close to the horizon line to be dark. So while it's still wet, I want to get that in there. If you are painting in some place really dry, like Arizona, you will want to move this part along a little bit. You can just do some of the straight on blue. See how much brighter that is when I don't put the alizarin crimson in it? Okay. Now, rinsing in the dirty water and then a little bit in the clean water. I'm going to switch to this turquoise. You could use a lighter cobalt with a touch of green added, but I really like this turquoise paint. Starting at the horizon line, I'm going to swish down. And leave some space in there that's kind of white. I think we need a little more paint on my brush. It needs to be a little more firmly there. You're looking for a staining and transparent watercolor. If you look on the tubes, it'll tell you if it's semi-transparent or transparent. You can use non-transparent colors, but it won't, it's going to leave sediment on the paper, which will look a little funny, promise. Okay, now I've got that white there, so I'm going to add a little bit of the red, which is just a touch of Alizarin Crimson, making it a little darker than you want because as it dries, it gets lighter. Now wherever it touches the blue, it's going to turn purple. Blue and red make purple. And for an extra pizzazz, we're going to take a little of that permanent green. This is a Holbein permanent green, but you could use any bright kind of springy green. And we're going to stick some of those in. The most effective northern lights in watercolor is make a mark and stop. Don't go back and forth. You can see over here I've gone back and forth a little bit, and it's blooming is what that's called. Oh well. But the way to stop that is to not futz with it. Now I'm going to take a bit of folded paper, and right here at the bottom, or what will be the top, I barely touch it and just soak up some of that excess water. Just barely touch it. I've noticed some white there, so I'm going to take my finger. That would probably be covered up if I framed it, but just in case it's not. Now, at this point, if you leave it alone, it's going to look great. But if you start fussing with it, it can do a number of things. So very carefully, it's not very goopy, so I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over. If you still had a lot of goop, you would want to wait. I am seeing it running here. It'll be fine. But see, I'm futzing with it, and that's when things go wrong. Take my smaller brush and the dirty water, which is kind of bluish in color, hopefully. It's not blue enough, so I'm going to touch just a little bit of that phthalo mixture and put a little tiny bit of shadow where the hooves broke the snow. Now this one was a little strong, so just take it off with the corner. I imagine under those trees, that's where the bunnies would hide. So you would see some shadows there. This just makes it look more fun. Tempting. It's really tempting to fix things that I see in there that I don't like, but if you leave it, you'll be much happier with it. And that's all there is to it. You can do these in a series. You could make the marker parts do like a triptych. You could do all trees in one, and then the tree and the moose in one, or caribou, reindeer. And the other one you could do trees and a tiny little rabbit. The idea is that this part is a silhouette, so it doesn't matter what it is. Now I see white in that tree, so I'm going to take some of my snow and just go over the marker part. It's not quite dark enough. But I'm not going to stray out into the part that's white, because it'll bloom. But you won't see it if it's under the marker, if it's over the marker. Okay? That's all there is to it. You can make a series of Christmas cards. Have fun. Would you like to see a preview of our next episode? Keep watching. It's coming in just 40 seconds. But first, here are a few things you can do to help me keep the videos coming. Hit the subscribe button below and leave a comment while you're there. Share this video on your social media or share it with a friend. You can go to my website where you'll find more painting tips, and you can buy the paintings I've created in these episodes. You can also see my fine art originals that took me way more than 27 minutes to create. Book me as a guest artist for your next gathering or convention. I do live painting demos and paint-alongs for groups of every size, either in person or via Zoom. Next time on 27-Minute Artist, we'll scribble an endangered species, the one-horned rhino, using a box of crayons and some sketch paper. See you next time.